skunk is in alley this morning. 1-star rating on burst stomach. These listeners are afraid of us. We have seen their true face. Their phones are extended gutters, and their AirPods are full of blood. And when their headphones finally scab over, all the vermin will drown. The accumulated filth of all their Joe Rogan and Smartless episodes will foam up about their waists, and all the whores and politicians and listeners will look up and shout, "Do more Lost episodes." And we'll whisper, "No."
Hello and welcome to Lost Within Lost.
Dan, I think it's time. I think we've clearly moved on from
That's
Lost.
true.
From Lost Within Lost. Nobody wants to hear you bashing the Constant. I think that's been put to bed now. Consensus. Obviously, that was the greatest episode of Lost of all time, and we did a whole podcast series about that. But we are, of course, rewatching the Watchmen now, Dan.
Yes, that's right. I've forgotten that we're no longer Lost Within Lost. We are rewatching the Watchmen, and this is, of course, the podcast where we've been revisiting the world of Watchmen. So we've already covered the 1986 comic series, and last week we discussed the fascinating movie, the fascinating 2009 Watchmen movie.
Yes, yeah, that was it's so insane to think about that film that it was made. I mean, it's kind of crazy, but it also makes a lot of sense for the time that they're like it. People were desperate to make it. It was always going to happen, and it happened, and it's kind of a miracle that what we're going to talk about today it turned out to be. Well, let's see. Yeah, let's see, because of course we're going to talk about the TV series, and of course, Dan, I'm going to be looking towards you to understand what old mate Alan Moore may have had to say about this particular project.
He loved it. Loved every second.
Did he reach out to our good friend Damon Lindelof, who of course steered the ship on this project, and hence the connection with Lost?
Yeah.
But Dan, this was a 9-episode limited series.
Yes.
How are we going to cover it in one podcast?
Yeah, because it did take us roughly 20 hours to get through 10 episodes of Lost. So we'll try not to drop an 18-hour podcast on you talking about these 9 episodes of Watchmen. So what I've done instead, I've developed this algorithm. So I've got data from like IMDb, Rotten Tomatoes, Metacritic, the AV Club, watercooler.gov, the Australian Bureau of Statistics, JB Hi-Fi box set sales figures, pet name records. I put them all together in this massive spreadsheet.
TripAdvisor.
And I've crunched all the numbers.
Yep.
And what I've done, I've come up with the best 3-episode run of the series. So not the best 3 episodes, just the best 3 in a row.
Yeah, right.
And the peak of the show, if you like.
That's awesome, Dan. I'd love to know how you did that. It sounds very complicated, but you are.
I'm a pro, man.
You've mentioned that you're in a previous life you were a data nerd. Is that right?
Yeah, I was a number cruncher.
Yes.
So
this is amazing. So you've created this whiz bang machine, and and so you've consulted. So this is the peak of the series, like the 3 best episodes back to back to back, to help define like when the whole thing crescendoed, and what did the machine spit out, Dan?
It spat out that the best 3 run streak was episodes 6, 7, and 8. So that's This Extraordinary Being, An Almost Religious Awe, and A God Walks into a Bar. They're the 3 episodes.
So that's right before the finale, which is interesting.
Yeah.
I've got some thoughts on the backup. We'll go into detail on these 3 episodes, but I do find that really interesting because I feel like the show has a little bit of a wobble towards the back end, but we can discuss that for later.
Yep. I just like that we'll discuss the word remix later, but it's very much channeling the original series, which of course by most people's mindsets peaked in the penultimate episode of the comic book series as well. That certainly got the big twist.
Yes. Yeah. By this part of the series, we are pretty much almost every curtain has been pulled back. There's only one big major reveal that actually happens in the one of these episodes. So we're fully like in the Watchmen world, whereas the first half of the series feels like you're still waiting for them to show you what's the connection, where, other than always that little bit of this and there's Laurie, I suppose. But so we're full mask off, so to speak.
Yep.
This is a Watchmen, well and truly a Watchmen property by the time we get to these 3 episodes. Before we get into it, Dan, I did want to ask, last week we talked about the best portrayals of Tricky Dick of Richard Nixon, and I recommended Black Dynamite. Did you have any luck watching Black Dynamite?
I didn't have much luck watching Black Dynamite because I was watching all 9 episodes of the Watchmen TV show instead. So my time was pretty busily spent. So
that's all right. You're forgiven. I tried to talking about it. I've got such fond memories. I love that movie, and I went hunting for it, and you can't actually currently stream it anywhere in Australia, which is a real shame. And part of this weird world we now live in, where if an app at any point, one of the apps might drop it, and so you can't find it unless you've got the DVD. But I do recommend
physical media people.
Yes, I do recommend the animated series that they also made, which aired on Adult Swim, if you can find that. And one day, Dan, I think
I'll track it down.
Yeah.
Well, I'll work out a way. There must be a way to watch it. I'm sure I can work something out.
Shall we do it? Let's get into
this.
Let's complete the trilogy. This is what we wanted to do all the way back when we decided to resume the podcast, was that we wanted to talk about Damon Lindelof's another one of his projects. And so here we are, Watchmen, the 2019 TV series, a limited series created by Damon Lindelof. Based on the 1986 comic book series Watchmen by Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons. That is, so Mr. Alan Moore is credited in for this product. It aired on HBO in the US, and in Australia it was on Foxtel, classic set-top box Foxtel. And this was released, the first episode was released on the 20th of October 2019. The summary goes: Watchmen takes place in an alternative contemporary reality in the United States in which masked vigilantes became outlawed due to their violent methods. What's the phrase? It feels like it's really echoing current times with masked forces out on the streets.
It's definitely you tapped into something that was in the zeitgeist there before it was even in the zeitgeist. So that's good work there from Damon.
From there. So before we get to those 3 episodes that we mentioned, I did want to ask Dan, there was, of the many attempts to bring back Watchmen, it sounded like people had been at it for years, and although Alan Moore had never given his blessing, it kind of wasn't his choice, right?
No, it wasn't his choice. DC had the rights to do whatever they wanted, and they were held at bay for a long time, as we discussed previously, but eventually the bay broke.
That's right, the dam broke, and so in 2012 we got a comic series titled Before Watchmen. So Dan, can you take it? Did you get involved in it? Were you excited? Were you cynical?
I was cynical, and it's partially because I'd grown up. Like I knew this kind of whole Watchmen story about how Alan Moore was really pissed off that he didn't have the rights. So I knew how important it was to him. I knew that DC had held things at bay for so long. I knew he was just like, no, this is special. We're not going to do this. And then suddenly they were like, maybe we will do it. And they claimed they got all the best writers and artists in comics to do it. But it was still a little bit like, this feels a bit grubby and nasty.
Yeah.
And Alan Moore had some thoughts about it. Do you want to know what our friend felt about this one?
Well, did those thoughts come before or after, or regardless of the series?
Regardless, I think. I don't think he cared one iota.
Okay, let's hear it.
I'll give you an interview at the time, a quote from an interview at the time. It seems a bit desperate to go after a book famous for its artistic integrity. It's a fine art series. Watchmen was said to actually provide an alternative to the superhero story as an endless soap opera. To turn that into just another superhero comic that goes on forever demonstrates exactly why I feel the way I do about the comics industry. It's mostly about franchises. Comic shops these days barely sell comics. It's mostly spin-offs and toys. And then he went on to add, because this must have been beforehand, because
Yeah.
this is his prediction of how it was going to go. He said, I don't think it's going to work. From what I hear, there's a certain degree of comic creators' hostility and negative feedback. Some people are writing petitions. I would have never asked any of the readers to do that, but I'm genuinely grateful. I would have thought from a DC perspective that it's a lose-lose perspective unless they did something better or as good as Watchmen, but realistically, that's not going to happen. Otherwise, it would have happened before. So small ego, tiny ego there on Alan Moore, but he does have a point.
There's so much going on in that, like the ego of, well, they'll never create anything as good. Is fascinating. Having a crack at us poor people that like to go and buy our little figurines and stuff with our comics. Can you remember the reception to this? Because I remember being really excited, and it was exactly at this time that I decided to get into trying to collect comics. What a time to arrive on the scene, 2012. Like, I think there'd been a big boom. People had started collecting because there was value in them, and you'd hear stories about Spider-Man #1 and Superman #1 and all this. But there's the bubble has burst, and so there's the market's flooded. But I think is this the point when DC restarted their kind of timeline or something?
Yes, they did. The New 52, they called it.
That's right.
That was all around that time,
Yep. So I collected those, and I collected these, and I think I have every single one because they did it with multiple characters. So each character had their own.
Yeah, each character had its own little mini series.
That's right. And all it took was for me to see. I think is it Darwin Cook? Yep. I think he did the art, or
he did the Minutemen one, didn't he?
I think so. Yes. So as soon as you see his artwork on one of these, you're like, I've got to have it because he's incredible, right? Yeah. And then you realize comics are fake. And when you open the book, you're like, well, this isn't the artwork that's on the cover. So I've got them all. I never read a single one. Really never bothered sitting down to actually read them. They're in a box somewhere. So I think Alan was right. I'm
not sure you missed much. I don't think I read it at the time. I think I was kind of on Alan's side a little bit here, but I eventually did get like the big collection. There's a big hardback collection. I got that out of the library a few years later, and I read them all, and they were mostly pretty dull. I think I don't think there was any. Like, again, Alan was right. They weren't as good as Watchmen. So, but then a few years later, there was also Doomsday Clock. This was marketed as the official sequel to Watchmen.
Okay.
So in this one, the Watchmen universe kind of starts bleeding into the regular DC universe. And Dr. Manhattan is the big bad of the series. And so this is, I don't know, this is pretty similar time, maybe a year or so before Lindelof's Watchmen.
Okay.
And I was reading comics on Comixology these days, so I wasn't going into stores anymore. So it was easy to download them. So I did. And it was kind of heavily delayed and kind of eventually just disappeared up its own butt. I don't even really remember how it finished. So that was kind of disappointing as well. I've got this massive collection of Watchmen related stuff. So despite it being just a 12-issue book, it feels like half a shelf of my comic collection, because I've got the Absolute Edition, an annotated edition, a companion book.
Yes.
But I don't have either before Watchmen or Doomsday Clock, despite my kind of completist streak.
Yep.
But I do have two spin-offs that Alan Moore would hate, obviously, but which are actually quite good. So this will be my final recommendation on Watchmen-related comic books.
Let's have it.
So the first is Kieran Gillen's Peter Cannon Thunderbolt series. Okay. So this is really clever. So Peter Cannon is the character who was the inspiration for Ozymandias.
Mm-hmm.
And so Gillen writes this great story that riffs on the Ozymandias character, but it also tells a new story. And I don't really understand how the rights for this work, because this wasn't published through DC.
Right.
But my understanding was had the rights to Peter Cannon Thunderbolt. But regardless, however it works, it's a great story and it's a really fun angle. And Moore can't really complain about it because he's writing about the same thing that he was writing about, the original character they were riffing on. So that's really good. So that's Peter Cannon Thunderbolt. Could strongly recommend that. And the second one I got was Tom King's Rorschach, which is obviously a complete rip-off of it.
Right.
But much like the 2019 TV show, this one's also a sequel of kinds, but it's a 12-part mystery. And kind of the cool thing about this one is it features as a character, a certain character named Frank Miller, who's a comic book creator.
Okay.
So it's weird, but pretty good as well. And both of them are better than either Before Watchmen or Doomsday Clock. So if you want to read anything Watchmen related, which isn't Watchmen, they're the two I'd recommend.
Okay, that's good.
Here endeth the DC Comics Alan Moore Watchmen lessons.
It's fascinating how far it spiraled out into different, when you, to your point, Dan, there's 12 issues. That's it. That's all pen to paper. There's really just those 12, but there's some interesting points you make. And Damon Lindelof makes the same point before he starts production. So basically we have the film Watchmen. It comes out, like, there's, upon reflection, it seems to be more positive than negative, but doesn't exactly set the world on fire. But Warner by this point, they've kind of got their act together when it comes to HBO, Warner Brothers, the DC comic universe, those straight to DVD Batman titles, and they're starting to do graphic novel conversions and things of that nature. So they were always going to try and do more. And it sounds like fresh off of Lost, they've come and approached Damon Lindelof, and then quite a few years pass, and then obviously we get, in 2019, we get the TV series. But there's a little bit of history there, and we know that history because Damon Lindelof himself, as part of announcing this project, did an Instagram post, which was which is a really interesting letter. I don't want to read the whole thing, but it's really important. It gives lots of great context. He's written it in the style of Dr. Manhattan, that famous chapter where he talks about being in multiple places at the same time. So this is how, and so I've just picked out a few here highlights, because it's an incredible work from Damon, who's a great writer. He says, "Dear fans of Watchmen," so this is the announcement that another version.
I remember seeing this when it came out. I was like, "What the?
This made news. This made news. This was announcing to the world that there'd be new Watchmen content. So, dear fans of Watchmen, hello there. My name is Damon Lindelof, and I'm a writer. I am also the unscrupulous bastard currently defiling something that you love." And then he goes on to talk. He says, "A man," he's again in that tone of Dr. Manhattan, "a man offers me the opportunity to adapt Watchmen for television. The filmed adaptation came out less than a year ago. Another man offers me the opportunity to adapt Watchmen for television. I tell him someone else asked me to do this a year ago, and I declined. He inquires as to why I said no. I tell him that Alan Moore has been consistently explicit in stating that Watchmen was written for a very specific medium, and that medium is comics. Comics that would be ruined should they be translated into moving images." The another man pauses for a moment, then responds, "Who's Alan Moore?" So you get a great idea. I picture this faceless executive just walking through the halls of Warner Brothers going, "What can we do next?" And who?
Big cigar in his mouth.
How'd you like to work on Watchmen, kid? He goes on to share some really emotional and sentimental thoughts about his father, because his father was the one that got him into Watchmen, he uses the same framing device to talk about when he was a kid, and then of course when his father passes away. But he said ultimately at the end of this letter, he says, "If you're angry that I'm working on Watchmen, I am sorry. I have an immense amount of respect for Alan Moore." He says that he wrote a letter. Damon goes on to say that he wrote a letter to Alan Moore because I owe him an explanation as to why I am defying his wishes, and to humbly ask him not to place a curse on me because he knows magic. we know Alan is a magician at this point. And then he discusses the idea of that how adapting Moore's work is unethical, but he makes the point that that's how Moore cut his teeth. He cut his teeth on characters and works of other people. So the idea of even Alan Moore said it's not about being like a lot of other comic stories are soap operas that go on and on and on and on. They're kind of because we're always taking and borrowing from something and building on top of it. And there are ways to bastardize things, and there are ways to take inspiration from them.
Yes.
So Damon is basically trying to reassure everyone that he's a true fan, and then the big reveal in this announcement is that it won't be a direct adaptation of the comic book. He said, "We have no desire to adapt the 12 issues. They will, however, be remixed." Those 12 issues.
That was the word.
Yeah, that was the word. What does that mean? Because he goes on to say those 12 issues are our Old Testament. To be clear, Watchmen is canon. So that was everybody finding out that they weren't going to do a series, which was the one thing that everyone probably said was, if you're going to try and do Watchmen, it's got to be a series. He's like, you know what? I'm not going to do it. It's amazing, isn't it? Like, Damon, it's this element of, okay, I have respect for Alan Moore. I'm not going to adapt his work, but I am going to do my own version of it. by doing it as a continuation. And as what's also fascinating is that you get cast announcements, right? So people are watching out for, okay, who is this? So there's deadline leaks that Regina King will be playing someone called Angela Abar, and everyone's like, okay. Yep. And then Andrew Howard will be Red Scare. Tim Blake Nelson is Looking Glass, and people, who are these characters? Okay. This sounds shit. Jean Smart is announced, but they do not announce that she's playing Laurie. Interesting to note that Sigourney Weaver turned down this role.
Okay.
And I think we can all agree Jean Smart is
she's spectacular.
Fantastic in this show. She's incredible. And then they announced that Jeremy Irons will be joining the show, and fans are like, okay, that's
we know who he is.
Yeah, that's Ozymandias. That's Adrian Veidt. Yep. That's him there. So then that helps people kind of get an idea of where this thing might be placed in time. Eventually we get a trailer, the first teaser, and you see these people in these Rorschach masks, and then there's that connection of, oh, hang on, that's right. The story ends with Rorschach dropping his journal into is it the New Frontiersman?
Well, yeah.
Yes.
Some crazy right-wing newspaper.
And of course, the imagination starts to run wild. Oh, okay, yes, the scribbled writings of Rorschach could inspire a group of people. So that's where we were at. That was kind of like the tease. March 2019 finally comes to our screens. Dan, were you skeptical, hyped? Here's this man, Damon Lindelof, that has created a few projects that you've really enjoyed.
I was very excited for this series because I'd followed, obviously love Lost. I'd followed Lindelof to The Leftovers, which was spectacularly good. That was just an amazing TV show. Yep. And then obviously I've always been a massive fan of Watchmen, so I was just like, well, yeah, I'm slightly wary, but this could be really good if you can make it work. So that was kind of my position. I was just I was well and truly willing to give this a go, and I was quite hopeful.
Yeah.
What about you? Where were you?
So I'd still all I'd done is that I'd speed read the book in time for the movie release, seen the movie, said, oh, that was cool, that looked cool, bought the extended DVD version because again at that point I was still telling myself that it was good, and never
You're
really
Phantom menacing yourself, like how we all said, oh, Phantom Menace, that's good, let's watch it 12 times.
Was it. Yeah, no, that was good. And that's kind of where I'd left it. I'd never given the franchise a fair shot. I'd like to pretend that I could hold a conversation with someone. Oh yeah, I know how well respected that is. And it wasn't until I watched the show that it helped me appreciate the original series that much more, because it really taps into some themes that the original series tried to reach. So I watched this week to week on Foxtel on demand. There's probably a good link to. I've got the ratings report because the way we watched this, Dan, was that this is a time and place where in Australia we just, as it aired in the US, it would air live in Australia,
like magic.
That's right. So the big Sunday night HBO drama of whatever it was would always run somewhere around 10:30 in the morning or 9 o'clock in the morning on a Monday morning.
Great for people who worked at home like me. Just like, well, maybe I've done a good few hours work here. I could just take a break and watch the latest Game of Thrones or whatever.
Yes. So I know, but for the rest of us, it would be work on a Monday, set the DVR on the Foxtel box, come home and watch it. But they would also air it at 8:30 p.m. for those that sort of still live their life by that clock. So I've got the ratings report. And what I've done is I've just gone to 8:30 p.m. Right? There's no,
that's fair. No normal people were watching it at the
no.
live.
But obviously there was a lot of on-demand viewing happening, but few people still watch live. So for the 3 episodes that we're focusing on, I've got the 6th episode aired on the 25th of November. 8:30 p.m, of course, on Showcase, which was the channel that aired all of the HBO content. So this extraordinary being, there's about 15,800 Aussies watching live as that went to air. Of course, they were up against, your free-to-air TV station. So over on Channel 7, they were running a drama called Flashpoint. And I thought, was this a a Lindelof spin-off. Wouldn't that be weird if this was another sort
no,
of...
that was Flash Forward. Flash Forward was the
right.
Lindelof ripoff. Yeah.
Yeah, no, this was just a Canadian police drama that ran from 2008 to 2012. That's how dire free-to-air TV is. Channel 7 at 8:30 p.m. has thrown on a Canadian police drama from 2012. Or it was a Russian TV series. I'm pretty sure
no
it was
one knows.
Yeah, nobody
Lost
knows.
to time.
So over on Channel 9, we're running paramedics. So Flashpoint, only 60,000 viewers. That's not far off those with a Foxtel box watching Watchmen. Channel 9, paramedics, 376,000. Everyone's watching Channel 10. Have you been paying attention? Almost just shy of a million. Yeah, just shy of a million people tuning in for a bit of Have you been paying attention? If you'd flicked it over to Go, couldn't blame you. A classic, the 8:30 movie, Galaxy Quest.
Oh, yeah. Can't go wrong with Galaxy Quest.
Can't go wrong there. 75.
The greatest Star Trek movie of all time.
75,000. That's more people watched Galaxy Quest on Go than this Canadian police drama. If you had 10 Peach, if you fired up 10 Peach, you could have watched Seinfeld The Fire episode.
Okay. That's a good one.
Yes. And if you had the Comedy Channel, you had another Seinfeld episode airing at the same time. This one, The Phone Message. So you had your choice of...
The Phone Message was a good one as well. That's the one where, they all get the hots for Elaine, right?
Yeah, both strong episodes. The following week, 2nd of December, 8:30 p.m., Watchmen has dropped about 4,000 viewers. I'm not sure what's happened. Maybe everyone's embraced the on-demand, but there's only 12,000 people that tune in for Watchmen. Over on Channel 9... Oh, Channel 7's still running Flashpoint. No one's watching that.
Yeah.
Channel 9. Now, the 8:30 movie has been scheduled, right? It's Shallow Hal. Right. Shallow Hal.
Oh, okay.
But it's pushed back slightly.
Another Seinfeld connection, Jason Alexander.
Oh, yes. Very, geez. Now, the movie's been pushed back slightly because something's gone late. What do you think it is, Dan? It's the 2nd of December. It's a day-night cricket test. It's Australia.
Of course. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's Australia versus Pakistan. I think this is the third day 3. I think it might have been. But this is the one where Warner hit 335, and a hapless Pakistan team where they were 3 for 39 going into the 4th day, ready to lose outright.
Times.
Yeah. No good. Over on Go, another classic movie, Billy Madison. Couldn't blame you if you flicked over that one. And then over on Channel 10, so the finale of Have You Been Paying Attention has taken place this week. It's they just run stand-up specials when it's off rating season. So it's Celeste Barber, challenge accepted, a stand-up special. I didn't catch that one. And our third episode, 9th of December. So Watchmen, we're up to 16,000 viewers. That's our best result so far. So a bit of audience come back. 7's decided to throw a movie on. We bought a zoo. Channel 9 is a bit of RBT, which again, I can't blame someone if you want to watch a little random breath test. Yeah. Channel 10, this time they've gone with an M. Rusciano stand-up special. Okay. So again, maybe not the strongest output. But you know what else is happening on Foxtel? It is over on the Discovery Channel.
Oh, is it Shark Week?
It's Shark Week, Dan.
Hey.
Good guess. Now, Dan, I know you're going to say, but isn't Shark Week normally in July or August? And
that's exactly what I was going to say.
Exactly, and I would say it is, but for some reason in Australia we're doing Shark Week all over again.
Yeah, because it's summer. Like it's you got to have Shark Week in summer when people can be eaten.
That's right.
You're not going to be eating anybody in bloody July.
That's right. No one's going to learn anything about sharks. So I've got very quickly, Dan. Would you like to play a game? Real title or fake title? I've got some names of some Shark Week television shows. I need you to tell me real or not real. Okay.
Okay.
All right. First one. Great White Kill Zone.
Real.
That is real. That is definitely a real. Have we got some maybe overlay some music underneath?
Yeah, I'll overlay the Jaws theme underneath it, and we'll get taken down for bloody copyright infringement.
All right, this one, Air Jaws Strikes Back.
Real.
It is definitely real. Real. Okay, another one, Shark Fu License to Gill.
Fake.
You're like there's like blood in the water, Dan. You can sniff it out. Law of Jaws, Dangerous Water.
Real.
Real. Sharks Gone Wild.
Fake.
That is real. And lastly, Dancing with the Sharks.
fake.
That is 100% real. From the most recent Shark Week this year, you can actually see they had people in scuba outfits down in shark tanks performing for judges who were on shore. Strange stuff. So there's a bit of Shark Week action happening over on Foxtel.
Right.
But of course, we're here to talk about the show, and specifically the peak streak of episodes. Now, Dan, maybe well, we should say spoiler alert, right?
Yeah, lots of spoilers to come. So if you haven't watched it, honestly, go away and watch it. Like, it is worth watching. It's 9 episodes. Like, it's not going to take you that long.
No.
But I'll do a quick summary of the first 5 episodes just to get everybody up to speed on what's going on, and then we can start talking about 6, 7, and 8 if you like. So, set 3 decades after the original comic, the TV series revolves around Detective Angela Abar investigating the murder of Tulsa's police chief, who is a former Miami vice cop, Don Johnson himself.
Oh, yes.
So the murder connects to the white supremacist group, the 7th Cavalry, which is spelt with a K, so you know it's very no good. And this traces all the way back to the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre.
And I'll just say, Dan, me, and not just me, but some other people that have texted me over the journey learnt about the
I think
Tulsa
everybody learnt about it from here. Like, it was complete unknown, which is kind of shocking.
And kind of the point, right? Like,
exactly.
A lot of the show,
Yep. So, it traces all the way back to the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre. But nowadays, the police in Tulsa are masked and superheroified for their own safety. Angela, in particular, goes by the butt-kicking nun identity of Sister Knight. She teams up with FBI agent Laurie, I used to be Silk Spectre Blake. They conduct an investigation and they discover a variety of baffling mysteries that tie together Police Chief Don Johnson, presidential candidate Joe Keane, and a cunning billionaire by the name of Lady True. Oh, and there's also kind of in mysterious isolation in a remote estate in a completely separate part of each episode's plot. The elderly Ozymandias surrounded by cloned servants. And what's going on with him? Who can say?
And I'll say, so I rewatched the show and I watched it with my partner who has neither seen the movie nor read the original series. And we watched this together and she had obviously no idea who that man was or what he was doing. And my partner has no patience for any kind of mystery, sci-fi, anything of that nature. Very frustrated by Lost, but she was hooked on. That was the decision. That's what she wanted to watch more because she wanted to know what was going on with that guy. Because every time we'd take a trip over to wherever Ozymandias was and whatever, and that slow reveal around the clones that had been working with him, these weird servants, and he's trying to get out of wherever he is. That's part of what had her hooked, along with the strong characters around Regina King and her portrayal of Angela Abar and her connection to the history and the Tulsa race riots and stuff. So she was, as a week-to-week television show, she was gripped by a lot of that, and not so much about the superhero and any of these things. So episode 6, This Extraordinary Being. I should mention this was directed by Stephen Williams, who directed 26 episodes of Lost. So he was Damon's brought in some. So
26 episodes is a good chunk. Lost, like that's about a quarter of Lost. It's like 20% maybe.
Yeah. He was a reliable hand on Lost, and this episode has a 9.2 rating on IMDb. So what specifically happens in episode 6, Dan?
All right, I'll give you a rundown on this one. Angela takes a whole heap of nostalgia pills that envelop her in her grandfather's memories. And did we mention that her grandfather was Hooded Justice, the first masked vigilante? Because he was. So this is an extended flashback episode, very much in the style of The Constant.
We love it.
With Angela flipping back and forth through time as she relives the racism her grandfather faced from the Tulsa Race Massacre as a child through to his lynching as subsequent survival in 1939. So not the cheeriest subject matter, but a reminder yet again of the dangers of taking drugs. On the other hand, the overdose also reveals the origin of the Minutemen. So as always, pros and cons.
And if we learn anything in our Lost podcast is that it's pros and cons of taking drugs. So this is an incredible episode. The decision to have or I guess that it's the reveal, right? That Angela's grandfather was the original Hooded Justice.
Yes.
That's obviously the original comic series.
They leave it very vague in the original.
Yeah, they
series.
allude to the idea of a Russian wrestler,
strong man
who'd been in the circus, washed ashore, and so this is a I guess would this be considered part of would this be a remix?
It's kind of a retcon, yeah. I mean, there is plenty of wiggle room though for Lindelof to play with because, as we say, like Moore and Gibbons didn't come out and spell out directly who Hooded Justice was. They just hinted at it. So if you want to ignore those hints, which Lindelof does here to kind of create this kind of richer story or this richer background potentially for him, which kind of ties into these racial issues. And as a pair of white Australian dudes, I'm not sure how qualified we are to talk about the racial aspects of this story, but it's obviously pretty powerful stuff, which is kind of represented by how acclaimed an episode it is.
Yeah, it's super powerful, and it's kind of it's the thing that frustrates me about Alan Moore, which I mean, you can't make people do anything, but I think it's pretty brave to kind of take this franchise, look at it, look at the themes of it, and go, I want to use it to, or what would be a really easy and natural fit for this is to tell this type of story, because this doesn't feel square peg round hole. Like it's such a natural fit. To connect it back to the these sort of these race issues and the idea of people retconning history and isn't that ironic as well?
Yes.
And that's a big part of what this is. And this is a big reveal around like, okay, so what is her family connection? What does it have to do with anything to do with the Watchmen? Because the fun part of this show is that we're also getting glimpses of a gritty HBO style drama, which is
drama, like a The Wire or something, like a police drama, except they're all wearing superhero costumes.
Yes, and it's very kind of I guess off the time where there'd be lots of gratuitous sex and swearing and violence, and a complete misrepresentation of what we know to be the story of the Minutemen.
Yeah, and a really kind of fun thing about that is when Alan Moore did his America's Best Comics series around 1999, turn of the century. One of he wrote 4 comics a month or something. One of them was a series called Top 10, which he pitched as basically Hill Street Blues meets superheroes, and it was basically cops who were superheroes. So it's he's basically Lindelof's kind of ripped that off as well.
Yeah,
in the same way, it's just like, well, I'll take this normal cop drama, but I'll make them all superheroes. So that's kind of cool as well.
It's super interesting. This is also, I feel like in this series, everything is pretty well grounded. Like they've got the airship, they've got Archie, the airship, and and there's like a lot of the sort of the action and the it's pretty grounded in like vigilantism and there's been no Dr. Manhattan or anything like that, no teleportation. We've just had the squid rain, but then you've got this idea of the technology that there was a real fork in the road. So Dr. Manhattan appears, he disappears, but while he's here, there's some technological advancements. But we go down a slightly different path. So in the 2019 version of this show, you've got some really amazing tech. Everything's electric now, but then also some really old, really old kind of stuff. And then there's this idea of being able to take a tablet and experience someone else's memories. And that's the first like big leap. And I think that when I was watching it with my partner, that she's like, wait, what's happened? She's like, well, okay, she's taken a tablet and it's allowed her to experience someone else's. But they do quite a good job of sort of retconning it as this was something that was developed to help with dementia patients. And of course, like any drug, it's abused.
Yes. And obviously nostalgia is, a strong brand name in the original comic as well. So it all ties in. There's a lot of allusions to the original comic, which very, very neatly done.
And you know what? I didn't even get the connection to the Constant when I watched it. The idea of this special episode that spent time in, where she went backwards and forwards. And I think it's because there's another episode that uses a similar framing as well. Is there anything else you wanted to touch on there? Or should we have a chat about the 7th episode?
Let's move on to episode 7. Yeah.
So, An Almost Religious Awe, which was directed by David Semmels. He directed 2 episodes of Heroes. That was the only kind of connection I could find, even though, that was on the same time as Lost. This episode has an 8.8, so it's the slowest rating of the 3 back-to-back-to-back episodes. Dan, can you get us up to speed? What happens in this episode?
Yep. Lady True treats Angela in the aftermath of her nostalgia overdose, which has the side effect of justifying a series of flashbacks to Angela's childhood in the 51st US state of Vietnam. We learn that Angela's parents were killed by terrorist puppeteers, by far the worst kind of terrorists, or puppeteers. Lady True's mysterious Millennium Clock is also just about ready to go, and her plan is to steal the powers of Dr. Manhattan, who she reveals is living secretly in Tulsa. This, however, is not news to Angela, who knows perfectly well that her husband Cal is Dr. Manhattan, so she cracks his head open with a hammer.
We'll never forget the ending to this episode. It sort of burned in my brain with if I watched the show in 2019. We dealt with COVID, and a few years later now, but that's the one thing I always remembered about this show. And I mean, we can, if you want to talk about the twist. This is a big reveal, the big twist in this episode.
I didn't see it coming. I had no idea. Like
none.
When that was revealed, it's like, okay, fair play, you got me there. That's good.
Because we'd established that they kept mentioning it, and so I had the advantage of watching it with my partner, knowing that this was Dr. Manhattan, but at the same time, Dr. Manhattan didn't mean anything to her. But when she reaches for that hammer and cracks him on the head. It's quite shocking. But when you rewatch the series and you see the performance of Cal, he's so there's the best example is when one of the kids asks about, has the sheriff gone to heaven? They ask, is he? And he just plainly states there is no heaven. And it's such a great tease. And of course I think the way that he's played is that he is quite the character is really low key, which makes a whole lot of sense when you know who he is, and then you notice that like the books that he's reading, and it's always something kind of big philosophical or something, he's still learning about the human race. There's sort of a little bit going on there.
I think what I love most about this episode, because I rewatched this in the last few days, and like as I was watching, I was just kind of jotting down some notes, and just the number of kind of nods to the original comic book series. Like it opens with a Dr. Manhattan puppet show. And of course, one of his most famous quotes is how, we're all puppets. I'm just one who could see the strings. So brilliant. Like that's so good. I mean, there's a scene where Angela is kind of given psychiatric tests, a la Rorschach in prison. There's a scene where kind of Laurie confronts Don Johnson's wife. I can't remember her name. And she confessed, like she just comes out and says, "Yep, no, I'm sorry, you got us." And then she reaches for a remote control, which is exactly what Ozymandias did. Like my secret weapon is a remote control. Hers opens a trapdoor eventually as well. And then you've got, Ozymandias, and he's planning a prison escape. And it was in this episode that it occurred to me, his story is basically the pirate story of this TV show.
That's right.
He's the pirate comic book of this TV show.
Yes.
But more interesting.
Yeah, because there's even that shot of the flag, because is this the one where the ship lands to collect him?
No, that's a couple of episodes later. I think that might even be episode 9, maybe. Maybe it's episode 8.
Where the masked man that has been playing the gamekeeper, and it turns out to just be one of his clones, and he's like, was I a good nemesis? And like that's such an incredible play on that character that always needs that sort of, what do they say, steel stuff, sharpened steel, and he needs that character to play up against. But there's a shot where they have it's almost like the pirate flag marking the boundary of where he's not allowed to pass, which is very Black Freighter vibes.
So it's there's so many allusions to the original. It's just very good. And I at the time I remember admiring this, and I admired it all over again when I watched it this week. The gag of having an elephant restoring your memories is it just tickled me. So that's not bad.
It's Yeah, there's so many things I love. All the different choices that they made, even just the color scheme, like the police lights with these sort of yellow and blue, and all the aesthetics, the yellow masks, and it's a shame we can't talk about it. Like I want to talk about the Looking Glass character, like echoing Rorschach.
Yes.
He's absolutely fantastic, and being that paranoid person who, of course, there are certain people in life that are prone to believing in conspiracy theories, and guess what? This one's true. It's real. It really happened. And I'd love to keep talking about it, but obviously, we'd be here forever. But that was episode 7. Episode 8. This is another, I guess, another one that sticks in the head because it uses a particular framing device.
Yes.
This is a god walks into a bar, and this had a 9.4, so I think this is the highest rated episode of the series. Dan, what happens in this one?
Within the framework of Manhattan and Angela's first meeting in a bar in Vietnam, we jump through time in classic Manhattan style to learn how their relationship developed. Along the way, we learn that in exchange for a device that would let him live as a human, Manhattan sent Vite to live on a moon of Jupiter where he, Manhattan, had built some life in the form of 2 horny English servants he met as a child. We also learn that Manhattan worked with Hooded Justice to uncover Don Johnson's mad scheme. And then, finally, we learn that Manhattan has been blasted with a tachyon cannon by those 7th Cavalry dickheads.
This one feels more constant-ish than the episode 6, this extraordinary being. I think because of is there something really important here with that while Dr. Manhattan is talking to Angela in the present, he's also talking to her grandfather in the past.
And we have a good Locke's compass moment where they discover that Don Johnson, who does have a real name, he's not named Don Johnson, but that we don't know who actually revealed that he was the bad guy, because she tells him and he didn't know before that, and then that's why he kills him.
Yes.
And that's when she finds out. So
it feels very Lost, more so than Watchmen. That kind of cheaty, sneaky kind of, we're using just put it down to the magic of the universe that something like this can happen. It almost felt like you've seen the movie Clerks, Dan, I assume. That's a very kind of the idea of a couple of people sitting around and just shooting the shit about Star Wars, right? Talking about the contractors who built the Death Star. This feels like people like Damon Lindelof in college sitting around debating the powers of Dr. Manhattan, right?
Yeah.
Like, but if he can do this and he could do this, doesn't that mean he could tell someone something he learned in the future and tell them in the past, and then just say that the reason they know in the future is because he learned it in the past? It feels a lot like him getting a chance to riff on his powers, because there's a big part of it. But really, this is all about Angela and Dr. Manhattan sitting in a bar, and he's convinces, like, well, they fall in love, and by him saying
he falls in love right at the end of their relationship, but because he lives throughout time, he falls in love with her the instant he sees her as well. So that's very cool. Like that is very the constant. Like the love story of this is very the constant.
Yes, that's a great point. So I do remember the aesthetic, the idea of you're in Vietnam. They're in a jazz bar.
And this kind of alludes to the scene where, the comedian kills that pregnant Vietnamese woman in the comic as well. Like it's the same bar. Like they apparently designed it to look as much like that bar as possible.
Yeah. So that there's that history. And there's also the egg is kind of mentioned here, right? And that becomes a big part of the sort of mystery ending to it all, or the postscript of the series. And which I still don't understand. Maybe you can explain it to me, Dan, if you understand that. And
I think I get it.
But that's well, is there anything else you want to talk about specifically for this 8th episode?
Yeah, I think I kind of liked, again, I just love the callbacks to the original comic. A classic argument between Manhattan and his girlfriend, where he's predicting what they'll do and say, and that rightfully drives them insane, but they still do and say it anyway. Like that's just a go-to trope for that. I also love kind of Adrian in front of television sets still teleporting squids,
Yeah.
and then, this Adrian and Manhattan conversation. And then, of course, this wonderful, when he's talking about the tachyon device, which will wipe Manhattan's memories. I made it 30 years ago. So just lovely, lovely stuff.
Yeah. It's a good point to talk about, like, at this part of the series, we're in full superhero mood, right? Because then, you've got the finale and they're doing that thing that I love, where you go, the conceit of this TV show is that what if superheroes were in our world, and so therefore you don't get a lot of biff bam superhero fighting, but then you'd still get that superhero ending where someone comes up with a clever idea. Or what if I just change the temperature and then suddenly the squids turn into bullets? And that's such a comic book villain ending, or like being able to foil the villain. Something that was interesting. So I was watching the show with someone who'd never read the book, and by a certain point in this, it's kind of required knowledge. The twist of the original 12 issues, and Ozymandias being revealed as the bad guy, and the I did this, the placing the squid in New York City, because there is that episode where the Looking Glass character, we revisit that moment.
We see it that day.
Having to have to explain that to someone without ever giving them the opportunity to say, here, have this book. And have this moment where there's this fantastic twist, because the twist is a core part of the show, which is the one thing that was a little bit disappointing, I guess.
Yeah, I could say that. My other big question from this episode was, did Lindelof name a bar specifically for the pun of a man walks into a bar? And I did some research on this.
Yes, okay.
Because my answer was obviously he did. Like, I could see that's but apparently he didn't. So according to the director of this episode, they'd already given Angela the surname Abar early in development. And as they were kind of storyboarding the episodes, she'd seen one of the writers had put down walks into a bar as a concept for this episode. And on seeing that, they realized kind of the serendipitous nature of the Abar name, which I find hard to believe. Someone had to have thought that.
I'm sure. No, knowing Damon and... Okay, different thought here, Damon. As you mentioned earlier, we are just a couple of old white dudes pontificating on some of the more serious themes of this series. This project, I did read a little bit that it may have been Damon coming to terms with, we talked about some of the controversies on Lost, the portrayal of characters, particularly, Michael and Walt, and him, I guess, wanting to try and address that and doing that in a way that really got to the heart of some of those issues. And so it wouldn't surprise me if Damon had done some research on, I don't know, popular surnames at the time based on where people were living in certain parts of the country and things like that. I tend to think he'd do that more than go, you know what? It's a really cheap gag.
All right. If you want a cheap gag, which I do know that he did as a pun.
Please.
So Laurie's vibrator is named Excalibur. Lindelof later revealed that to be a pun on Excalibur.
Oh dear.
There you go. That's apparently fact.
Because it's of course it's based on Dr. Manhattan.
Yes.
That's probably the best best place to leave it, Dan.
So that's it. Yeah. That's all I've got on episode 8. And after that we just have episode 9, which wraps the whole thing up.
Yeah, yes. And surprisingly, no discussion of revisiting it, and I was shocked that Damon was adamant at the very beginning. Nope, this is all it is. Another tribute to Alan Moore. You're getting 9 episodes and no more. And he
kind of wraps it up in an ambiguous way, just like the original comic does. Like the original comic, what is hands reaching towards the book? Is it going to pick up the journal? Is it going to not?
Yes.
And in this one, you've got she's about to step on the water. Does she have Manhattan's powers? Does she not?
Yep. Which we are to understand that she does.
I think she does, but there's plausible deniability in there that maybe that egg just happened to not crack. Maybe it didn't have his powers in it after all.
Yeah. And now I have to know. Can I ask it? Did Alan Moore view? So you watch the show and you're like, what an interesting concept to for the hooded justice, to the take on Dr. Manhattan. I kind of picture myself, like, you imagine yourself at a, I don't know, a convention or whatever with Alan Moore and going, yes, but have you, like, seriously, have you?
Give it a go, man.
Yeah.
Just give it one episode. Anyway, well, Alan Moore, I don't believe ever watched it, but he did have some thoughts on the show. Apparently, as you mentioned, Lindelof did, in addition to the letter he posted on Instagram, he also sent one to Moore directly.
Yep.
It allegedly began with, "Dear Mr. Moore, I'm one of the bastards currently destroying Watchmen." And then Alan Moore later described the rest of the letter as neurotic rambling.
It's so funny because you know that Damon put every bit of heart into that. We read the announcement. It's fun and it's clever. It speaks from the heart. He's done the same thing with, he's put his heart on the line, and Alan's gone, oh, what's this dribble?
Well, he did reply. Moore did reply to Lindelof. Apparently, he wrote back and said, "Look, this is embarrassing to me. I don't want anything to do with you or your show. Please don't bother me again."
I mean, Lindelof should probably consider himself honored to have even gotten a response.
I would frame that letter.
Oh, yeah, I think Lindelof would be quite chuffed. Please leave me alone. I want nothing to do with it. It reminds me of, this is really silly. As I've mentioned, I've watched a lot of Pixar and in the last year, a lot of Pixar movies, including the Toy Story franchise, which is very good. Everybody knows it's very good. But so Quentin Tarantino has seen the first 3 Toy Story movies and refuses to watch the 4th one because he says that it reminds me of Alan Moore.
Perfect trilogy.
Yes, because he said it's perfect trilogy. The story is perfect. The themes, everything marries up. He's like, why even spoil it with the 4th one, right? And we all probably think that. But I've watched that 4th one.
I actually haven't seen the 4th one.
But hey, Dan, some more homework, because I've seen that on repeat more than the other ones, which is kind of frustrating when your 3-year-old latches onto one of the movies versus the other ones. And so I've had so much time to analyze that film, and I'm like, it's quite good. Like,
I'm sure it is. I just haven't got around to it.
Every Toy Story film manages to sort of reinvent something from the previous, whether it's the way they portray the villains, whether it's the journeys that they go on. It's quite like the thinking and the love and the care behind that 4th one is actually quite good. And if I ever met Quentin Tarantino, and I love the man's films, and I, and if I ever got to ask him one question, I don't know if I could get past the Toy Story 4 thing. So that just reminded me of that. I wanted to mention that. But Dan, before we wrap up Watchmen conversation, I've got a bit of an awards wrap up if you're interested, because this show went on to win quite a lot.
Yes.
At a really interesting time, though. So I mean, if there was ever a cursed franchise, right? Like this poor show. So 2019, it airs right at the end of 2019. And so obviously award season from January onwards, kind of off to the races. So in 2020, it does win at the Emmy Awards. They win Outstanding Limited Series. Regina King wins Outstanding Lead Actress. You've got Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, who plays Dr. Manhattan, Cal. He wins for Outstanding Supporting Actor. They've got wins for writing. So This Extraordinary Being is the one that they submitted and won for. Got cinematography, costumes, music, casting, editing. They win 11 Emmys. Incredible. Golden Globes, later on, there is a special category for miniseries. 0 nominations.
What?
To get absolutely, like, not even a nomination, acting, nothing. 0 across the whole.
That's so weird.
Absolutely nothing. That it's notable. So I was doing about hunting around, and there's articles written at the time, like people trying to work out what's going on. Would you care to hear the 5 nominees for limited series in at the Golden Globes that year? So we've got Unbelievable from Netflix, if you remember that one. That was it's based on a true story. A young woman who's sexually assaulted. They don't believe, the police. Nobody believes her. Very powerful story. The Loudest Voice, which I don't recall. Fosse Verdon, they were doing FX were doing a whole bunch of rivalry shows at the time.
Yeah.
Catch 22, which was on Hulu.
Oh yeah, I remember the Catch 22 series. Yep.
I didn't see that, and Chernobyl, which was on
Chernobyl was
HBO.
good as well.
Yeah. So and Chernobyl took out the Golden Globe, but no.
So obviously Alan Moore didn't cast a spell on any of those 5
or perhaps
shows.
Perhaps he did. And this is part of the Watchmen curse. No nominations. And then I thought, you know what? Surely our friend Prince Albert II,
hey, he's back.
The Prince of Monaco. Surely the Monte Carlo Television Festival, the Golden Nymphs, would have celebrated another Damon Lindelof vehicle. 0 nominations, 0 anything. They had. Remember the average lost nomination? There'd be about 20 deep.
Like every single person who showed up on that thing. Bloody Arts was in there. Yeah, like they were all in there.
Yeah, no, nothing. It was partly because the event was cancelled that year. So I should say that COVID kind of cancelled everything. But no posthumous awards, unfortunately. You know what did go ahead? You know what? You can never stop the Golden Derbies. If you remember, this is the award system that kind of lives on the whole betting or behind the Academy Awards and the Golden Globes.
Yep.
This determines the betting, hence the derbies. I always picture them at a racetrack handing out the awards. So the show got quite a few nominations, did quite well at the Golden Derbies. Was nominated for Ensemble of the Year. Jeremy Irons was nominated. Tim Blake Nelson was nominated. Yahya Abdul-Mateen, Hong Chow, Gene Smart, all got nominations. Unfortunately, didn't win, but it did win Best Limited Series, and then Regina King did win again for Lead Actress.
Yep.
What was fun about the Golden Derbies in 2020, Dan, was, and because they're so rogue, they're like, well, it's the end of the decade. Let's give out some more awards. We'll give out the decade version.
Best of the decade.
Yeah, the best of the decade. So would you like to have a crack at, I've got a couple of categories here. So motion picture, best motion picture of the decade. So this would be...
So this is 2010 to 2019?
Yeah. I'll tell you, there's a little bit of recency bias with some of these.
Is it a Nolan?
No. Is
it more prestigious and fancy than that?
It is more prestigious and fancy than that. It's very well. I think it's justified. It's Parasite, which obviously won a lot of awards. So that was your motion picture winner in 2020, and it won of the decade.
Yep.
Lead actor. This is another example of recency bias. This is definitely recency bias. We're in comic book land now. It's a comic book movie that's same character has won.
Is it Downey Jr.?
No. So there's one, I think I'm doing this right. There's one character that's been played by 2 different actors that has received an Oscar for playing the same character.
Heath Ledger.
It's not Heath Ledger, it's Joaquin Phoenix.
Joaquin, okay,
yeah,
enough,
for playing the Joker. And then he's given the Actor of the Decade plaudits. Lead actress, I'll put you out of misery here, Dan. I thought this is a quite good one. This is Natalie Portman for Black Swan.
I thought you were going to say like Attack of the Clones.
And then best director, of course, is Bong Joon-ho of Parasite. So those were the Golden Derby of the Decade awards. And I think does that sort of bring us towards the end of our...
Yeah, just before we wrap up, I kind of just want to say that I think Watchmen, kind of like The Leftovers, it kind of just shows... It shows that Lindelof was kind of ahead of his time, because he's learned so much from Lost. Now that he's kind of no longer trapped in this churning out, a couple of dozen episodes a year, he can really lean into his strengths with these kind of shows. He can set up these really smart and compelling mysteries, but he has the time to actually sit down and plan out how to resolve them, rather than just kind of making up answers on the fly as he had to do with Lost.
Yes.
So Lost, I always argue that, Lost held together far better than it should have. Like, considering they were just barreling along and they just kind of throwing things at the wall, trying to cram all these episodes together, and they kind of, brought it down to a decent enough landing. But like, I don't think there's any denying that something like Watchmen is just so much better plotted. It is incredibly tight. Everything kind of just it's like Manhattan style, Dr. Manhattan style clockwork. Everything just kind of snaps into place. And as like all these mysteries are solved, and you can see, Adrian was sent to the the moons of Jupiter for this reason at this time, and that's how he's coming back. And I get that. It's very satisfying. It's deeply satisfying, I find.
It was an incredible show. I always wondered about the 9 episodes and whether Lindelof said that's all I need, because I do feel like it feels a little rushed towards the end, because 6 and 8, as you know, are let's use a device to get some backstory and bring it forward, and it feels like a way of cramming in more. Like the first half of the season lets you learn along with Angela, like we're all learning together about this new world and how it connects to the original Watchmen. And then the back half is very much just like here. Like I really love the pacing of the first sort of 5 episodes. And, Laurie doesn't arrive until, is it maybe the 3rd or 4th episode?
Third or 4th, yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Reasonably late.
Yep. And like, to see her travel around the country with a little cohort, being semi-recognized and solving, what an like that would be so much fun. But there's something about I'm going from like a 10 to a 9, right? Like there's those last 3 episodes cram in so much, and it also just happens to be some of the more higher concept elements of the show, and they're all, and you've got to then digest all of that, and it really becomes for the fans, for that. That's only my kind of larger thoughts on the show.
No, I was perfectly happy with the pacing at the end. I could see your point, but I was ready. Like let's barrel this thing to a conclusion, man. Let's go.
So Dan, I love what you've done. I want to know more about your this machine that you've built. The idea of the best, the peak, right? The peak of a TV show, because people have a lot of fun with this on, online on Reddit and things like that. There's lots of forums dedicated to like, what's the best 3-track run on an album, right? Like where it's just like perfection. Do you reckon we could do this for some more TV shows?
I think we could. I think we very much could do this.
I'd love to.
In fact, I'm going to pitch right now that should be the premise of the entire podcast going forward.
Peak streaks.
Peak streaks.
I would love to apply this thinking to. Some of these other, we've talked about talked about a few other shows, Seinfeld and I mean we were to Ozymandias, all the connections to Walter White and Hubris, to be able to kind of maybe
another great genius who's a little bit grumpy as well, and perhaps doesn't tolerate other people working in his environment.
Yes. And did you notice the Heisenberg reference in it's even in the comic books? Heisenberg gets a mention. So Dan, what do you think? Do you reckon we should we try and have a go at
let's do Breaking Bad.
Let's do Breaking Bad. Let's try and work out.
I'll look up the best 3 episode run of Breaking Bad, and we can do that next.
Yeah, look, I would love if I think about it. So, there's 6 seasons of Breaking Bad.
Yes,
almost all of it considered to be incredible viewing.
Yeah.
If we can get your peak streak machine to crunch the numbers and work out the best 3 episode run of the series, I have a feeling it's got to be somewhere around the Valley of the Lily, the big reveal. But this is one of my favorite twists. Speaking of, I know that the Watchmen contains your favorite twist of all time. My favorite is definitely in the show, and I just think that's the peak of the show. But I'm going to leave it to you, Dan.
I kind of have a feeling that like the whole kind of mechanics of Breaking Bad is just this slow build up. It just starts so slowly and gently, and then just faster and faster and crazy and crazy. I reckon the peak's going to be closer to the end. I think it's I think it's just a big bombastic ending.
We'll let the machine decide. But what we'll do is we'll come back with we'll set the table. We'll be in Breaking Bad world. We'll be in Vince Gilligan
we'll have little
world.
Hats on.
Yes. We'll shave our heads. And we'll get into we'll get into that world and talk some Breaking Bad. I think that's an excellent idea, Dan.
Okay, so that's how we'll see people next, right?
Yeah. So the next time you hear from us, we're going to settle it. what's the best 3-episode run of Breaking Bad?
All right. We'll speak to you then.
Dan, cue the outro.
Thank you for listening to Rewatching The Watchmen. If you have any feedback on anything you've heard in this episode, or even if you just want to share some of your own favourite Watchmen memories, no need to drop off your journal to a right-wing newspaper. You could just contact us via email at lostwithinlostpodcast@gmail.com. We're also on the socials. We're on Twitter, or X as some of you may know it, and we're also on Blue Sky, both of those at Lost Within Lost. Come and say hello. And meanwhile, thank you for listening.
Mad scientist stuff? I mean, when was this hopeless black fantasy supposed to happen? When were you planning to do it?
Do it? Dan, do you seriously think I'd explain my master stroke if there remained the slightest chance of you affecting its outcome? I did it 35 minutes ago.